Sean Capri, and welcome to We the GamerCast that publishes at youtube.com/carpoolgaming and podcast services around the globe every single Monday, but patrons get it first. Thank you guys so much for being here, for telling your friends, for telling your mom, for telling your dad, for telling your cousin, for telling your cousin's neighbor. Thank you so much for telling everybody that you know about We the GamerCast. We're having a good time over here. I have to say, the Scream... Do you guys know Wayne's World? Does anybody know Wayne's World? There's I don't remember. I think it was the first one. No, it's the second one with Christopher Walken. Wayne, otherwise known as Mike Myers, Canadian hero, of course, puts on Waynestock, a take on Woodstock. He puts on a whole rock concert. And I think it was the second one. They had a guy. It was called Mr. Scream. Oh, that was Somebody please correct me because I'm going back and forth on this. I can't land on which one it is. Mr. Scream is from Wayne's World. This I might be realizing in this moment that the "Hey, it's me, Sean Capri" might come from Wayne's World, and it wouldn't surprise me in the least. He would. Like the pitch I hit today was basically that. Like, go back and go to a YouTube videos, and here's Mr. Scream is "Hey." That's Mr. Scream right there. It's pretty close. Somebody can do a little snapshot. Maybe Yarden. Yarden's been doing some great work on YouTube of me going to McDonald's, getting all my drinks and everything. How are you guys? What am I even talking about here? If you're new, here's the deal. Every week I have sweet hangs with a stranger from the internet. And if you want to be on the show, just tweet at me at Sean Capri, Sean like Connery, Capri like the pants. We're booking into August now, man. We've got a great lineup of guests coming on up. Jordan is my guest today. You guys are going to love this conversation. But before we get into it, I want to thank damn near 90 people at patreon.com/carpoolgaming. You guys are letting us live our dreams. We're doing all the things. We've got the Geek Outs with the Scott Pilgrim. We did book 1 and 2. You guys probably listened to that already, but I read book 3, and Ryan Turford and I are going to be recording our full-on Geek Out about Scott Pilgrim book 3 on Tuesday. I've already got book 4 in my hand. I'm going to be reading this pretty dang soon, and I'm excited, man. I don't know I'm in uncharted territories here. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know the story, so I'm reading it for the first time. And in case you're wondering where you can find that, patreon.com/carpoolgaming, available to the $3 tier and up. Just like the Gridlock, we have reached our $700, which is crazy to say out loud. And these are American dollars too. This is nuts. We are at the milestone at our goal for the Gridlock, which is we put one game up against another game and people pick a side, and we're going to battle to the death. Later on tonight, today is Saturday, June 25th as I record this, we're going to record the first ever Gridlock, The Last of Us Part 1 versus The Last of Us Part 2. Who will win? We shall see. Patreon.com/carpoolgaming, $3 tier and up. That is where you get the exclusive content. And I want to say a special thank you to our ultimate producers, Tony Baker from Quest for Pixels at youtube.com/Quest for Pixels, Dallas Ford, the co-host of the Blame Game. So please support Dallas on YouTube. Emily O'Kelly, Trucker Sloth, Johnathan Brown, whose album In My Element is on Spotify and Apple Music, Lee Navarro, the fearless leader of the Phoenix Overdrive Extra Life team. Lee, we need to talk. I just need to, take a bit of a breath here. But second of all, we got to get the hype train going for Extra Life. I'm already signed up. I want you guys on the team too. Skinny Matt, who I met at Extra Life, he's hosting Carpool Gaming Community Game Nights. Wednesday night is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So stay tuned for that, twitch.tv/SkinnyMattK. And our latest ultimate producer, Robby Bobby Miller, twitch.tv/Robby Bobby Miller. That's 2 B's, 2 B's, 2 L's. Please, guys, support all these ultimate producers. All the links are in the show notes. Our platinum producers, Brendan Myers, Dano, Marcus McCracken, Becky Rubin Navarro, and RJ Kern. And all of our gold members, Anna, ARGO, Ashley Nicholson, Cecily Carrozza, Dallas Robbins, Foolish Fuji, Jose Jimenez, Marcus O'Neill, Mostly Martinez, Nagachaka, the Snack Network, Tom Dinks, and Mr. and Mrs. Nasty Boots. And I want to welcome on in blah, blah, blah. Thank you so much for joining in. And as I mentioned, Robby Bobby Miller now at that ultimate producer level, you guys. The family, I got to tell you guys, just a quick update. Family is not feeling so great. Everybody's coughing up a lung upstairs. Everything is sounding really nasty. And I wake up in the morning like, is today the day? Is today the day that it's gonna hit me? I'm trying to isolate. I'm staying down here, which, it's totally self-serving, right? Like, I feel very conflicted about this. I do not want to get sick. I hate being sick. And I don't think anybody else wants to get me sick. But it means that I'm down here in the basement with all of my stuff. Like I don't know. I don't feel very good about it. And I still don't even know if it's working. I'm washing my hands like it's the beginning of COVID. I think I talk about this with Jordan. I was supposed to go to my niece's birthday. She's 8. I think she's 8 now. Holy crap. What the heck is going on? And I can't even go because I don't want to get everybody else sick, man. It's too much. But in any case, I think I talk about this with Jordan, who is my guest. Jordan LaRose, who I met in person at the Xbox, well, just before the Xbox and Bethesda showcase. Jordan is apparently part of this ever-growing Ontario armada of gamers. I'm branding you guys. It's like everybody's in Ontario. Everybody is close together. You can meet up in person. It's a whole thing. It's very cool. I got to be part of it a couple of weeks ago. So Jordan and I talk a little bit about that. He hosts a podcast called Royal City Gamescast. You can follow him on Twitter at JLA_15. Here he is, my friend, Jordan LaRose. Trying to not get sick. I need a couple more days for everybody else just to be okay, and then I can maybe be in the clear. But I was a little worried yesterday morning. I woke up and I was like, ooh, that could be my turn next, but today seems all right. So fingers crossed. I'm just staying away. I'm drinking my orange juice. That's
taking your vitamins, the whole deal.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just trying to do what I can. I've run out of emergency. Have you ever had emergency? Like
I don't have any of it lying around the house, but yeah, if you don't have that, you gotta do orange juice.
Mm-hmm.
That protein shake that I was telling you about. That's
oh yeah,
all those.
Well, now I got a pen and paper. What do I have to get? What is it? So
it's called ISO Gold.
ISO Gold. I feel like I did write this down, but I don't know where I put it down.
Yeah, okay. That's the stuff that I use after I work out, and it's got like a ton of vitamins and everything.
Yeah.
Makes a huge difference.
You just want to avoid taking the Metamucil and what is the other one? The Centrum, Centrum Gold, all the multivitamins and stuff. We're not there yet.
Yeah, the Metamucil I've never
Metamucil.
Yeah, I've never had a problem, but that's also because I love bread, so I've never needed a ton of fiber, ton more fiber in my diet, but.
Oh yeah, that's right. Metamucil is the fiber one. What's the one with what's the multivitamin I'm thinking of? Is that called Centrum?
Centrum, yeah. Which you think you start eating that when you're you start not eating, you start taking it when you're in your 50s or whatever. Yeah,
exactly. My kids got the Flintstones vitamins. I don't know if those are actually good, but I don't know if those are actually vitamins. To be honest with you, I have no idea if they're
I think it recommended. It has nutrients and stuff in it, I believe.
Sure, yeah.
It gets kids in the habit of taking stuff, so
I probably should. I sometimes I don't know where I land on this kind of stuff. Sometimes I see people with their handful of supplements that they'll take, and it's this pill and this pill and this vitamin and blah blah blah, and it's holy crap, dude, it's a lot. But maybe there's something to it. Maybe it's something I'm missing.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the exercise makes a huge difference, right? So
the
exercise I think makes a huge difference for your body to be able to recover and take care of itself and everything. But
yeah, dude, it's a huge difference. I didn't go anywhere today or yesterday. I just wasn't sure if I was kind of getting the stuff, and I didn't want to bring it to the gym. And if anything, I just need the extra sleep to fight it off and all that kind of stuff. So, but I've noticed I feel like I'm going crazy in this house. I feel like I'm just I need to get out of here.
Yeah, I mean it's You
got that cat. You got that cat want to be part of this podcast?
Yeah, and I'm trying to plug in and plug out to make sure that she's not hanging out. But yeah, we had our cleaner come in today and take care of the house, and she's I've been in so many houses that have cats, and I've never heard a cat at all make that noise. It's somewhat endearing, but also
almost sounds like an alarm
at the same time.
It's this regular frequency.
She's does she do that in the middle of the night? And I'm yeah, she does it in the middle of the night. And I'm
wow.
But we're lucky. The two of us are sound sleepers. Nothing will wake us up.
Yeah. Oh, that's me. Chelsea is not a sound sleeper, and Max, what color is your cat? Is it an orange cat? Sounds like an orange cat.
Black cat.
Black cat. Oh, okay. Yeah, we have this crazy orange cat that really Max made an appearance on the Yumi Capri podcast earlier today. Okay. And I just had to kick him out. I just had to get him out of there, man. Just no. But softly and like gently up the stairs, and not really a kick, just a scooch, more like
just
a scooch.
A light nudge, right?
Of course, yes. While we're recording this conversation, yes, absolutely, yeah. light nice, nudge, man. Dude. I love that you're done your basement, though. I feel like you were maybe just getting started the last time you were on. I was trying to look up, how long ago that was.
I think it was I want to say it was like October or November the last time we talked. I mean, it feels like yesterday because it was literally like yesterday because. Well, we just saw each other like 2 weeks ago, right? But
reunited.
Yeah.
Now back on the internet. I've got the episode here, which I don't number. I want to get back to numbering these episodes. November 29th, 2021.
That sounds right. Yeah.
We hadn't done Christmas yet. We were both probably freezing our butts off.
It was starting to get cold, yeah. And I was thinking about doing the basement, but we hadn't kind of like pulled the trigger yet. But we were starting to kind of talk about it and get it going. And then we started contacting contractors and going through the motions with that and figuring out kind of what we wanted. And we were actually able to get it done a lot quicker than we thought. We were able to start like middle of March, and then everything was pretty much done by like middle of April to end of April. Which was awesome.
That's fast, dude. That's really fast. You know, most people, like, one of the things Chelsea and I talked about when we moved into this place is we wanted to buy a place that had a finished basement because we didn't want to live in renovations forever, because both of us with our parents had been in like renovations for like decades. We're like, we just thought that that's the way that it went. So the fact that like a basement can be completed in like a matter of weeks, if not a couple months, like, dude, that sounds, I'm all for it. Because now it's the way that you want it, I imagine. Like, is it kind of what you pictured when you got started?
Yeah, it's completely done now. So we have like a stacked townhouse essentially, so 3 floors.
Oh, okay. Yep.
So we have the basement obviously now, but upstairs it's probably about 1,500 square feet. But having the basement now is like added about 600 square feet of living space.
Yeah.
And we have the bathroom downstairs now. I've got like my gym and everything down here, but the biggest thing is my office. Was upstairs because we have 3 bedrooms upstairs. I was in one of the bedrooms, and Reese was sleeping next door, so I'd be up there in the middle of the night, and she's obviously trying to sleep, and it gets complicated, right, when you have like an infant trying to get her to sleep. So it was it's good that we have this space down here now because she can kind of do her thing up there, and then we also have a spare room / second baby room eventually once we start talking about the next kiddo. So yeah.
When do you think? Can I ask about that?
Yeah, sure. We're getting married in August next year, so we've already got that date planned. We've already got everything kind of booked. We have to start kind of like finalizing things probably in the next like 6 months. But yeah, Maddie, my fiance, she wants to wait until we get married before we have the second one, which was that was our original intention. Which we may have talked. I can't even remember. 6 months just flies by.
I don't know. According to the show notes, we talked about having tough conversations, having a baby during a pandemic, and what else?
Yeah.
LAN parties.
That sounds right.
But I don't do a very good job capturing the entirety of these conversations in the show notes. I don't know how I would ever do that.
But yeah, we essentially decided to have the baby instead of getting married right away, just because of the pandemic, right, and how crazy it was. So this time we want to wait until she's ready after we get married. So it'll be a bit easier, I think, after that. Reese will be probably about 3 and a half at that point. So, well, actually, no. I'm trying to think. 2023 August, she'll be 2.5. But by the time we have the baby, she'll probably be about 3.5. So she'll be out of daycare and she'll be going into like kindergarten and school.
That's
so then
crazy.
We'll only have one kid in daycare, which is the reason kind of why we want to do it. So if we can time it right, which we're super fortunate that we are able to like have kids super easy and we don't have any kind of complications. We're very lucky in that regard. So we're fingers crossed. Hopefully number 2 goes just as easy, but that's the plan. That's the master plan.
I like
for the
it.
next
You
couple
guys
of years.
aren't you haven't been deterred by the first one yet to go like, this is enough. That's a lot of people, man. A lot of people have the one and go, yep, that's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, when we initially, before we had the first kid, we were like, do we want to have three? Right.
Yeah.
That was the original
That
kind
was
of like
us.
thought process. And then we had one and we're like,
Yep.
do we want to have three? And like, we talked about it and we're like, well, I think we should probably just take it one at a time. And then, if we want to have three, great, but let's get to two first and then we can talk about three. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, right now we know for sure we want to have a second, and what happens after that, it'll just kind of be based on where we're at, right? I mean, you have two, right? Like, are you guys? Is there a third in the mix? Or are you guys kind of? Are you all out on that?
Two is it for two? Is it? I think it's funny because we were thinking of at least three at one point, and mainly because like I came from a family of 4 kids, and Chelsea just wanted to like she's just born to be a mom. Like she's just totally embracing. She's just crushing it. And then, the first one happened, like Lincoln happened, and he was as easy as a kid gets, I think. Like, honestly, he's just every major milestone. He's just crushed, and he's such a good kid, and he has the greatest laugh and all these things. And then, but even still, I was like, this is hard. I don't even know, like hard is not really the word. It's just like, it's, the level of stamina was unanticipated, I think.
Yeah.
As far as like, you just need to be on it all the time. It seemed like they were just like day after day. So that was a little jarring for me. And kind of immediately I went, well, we have to have 2 before we get to 3. So we'll see how this goes. And then Ellie came around and was quite a bit more challenging than Lincoln. And I think I was the one who kind of first brought up maybe 2 is enough. And that was a tough conversation, man, because the expectation, I think, and Chelsea's the one pumping them out too. So like, who am I to say anything? But yeah, I think we've since, after, Ellie's 3 years old and hasn't gotten a whole lot easier. So I think we're probably good at this stage. A little worried about
Is the
twins.
door closed? Is the door closed, or the
door's not closed? It is very possible.
Okay.
I think I know what you're asking. Yeah, the possibilities are still there.
Yeah, I mean, some of my buddies have already closed the door.
Same.
You know what I
Same.
mean? And
Mm-hmm.
it seems odd to do
door.
that, like at that age, to like kind of do that. But I mean, hey, like my one buddy has 3 kids, and
that's enough.
He's just like, no, it's time,
dude. What if twins happen after 3? What if you get twins or more?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. How old are you?
Yeah.
I can't remember. How old are you? Like when you say that age?
I was going to ask you the same. I'm 34. I just turned 34, and I think you're around the same age. Maybe are you a couple years older than me?
I'll be 38 next month, actually, which is weird to say.
So you're a couple.
Feels like 38 feels like quite a bit more than 37. But I was 32 when Lincoln was born. I'm pretty sure.
Okay. Yeah.
So, yeah, Ellie was 19 months after that. So, which honestly, I feel like this is, for me personally, it was like the best time for kids. Couldn't have had kids a day earlier than when Lincoln was born. Like, wouldn't have been ready. Wouldn't have been, I don't know. I was hardly ready for Lincoln. So,
yeah, I mean, 32. I was 30. Yeah, it was 33. So it was around the same age as you. But yeah, I mean, I'm going to have the second probably when what will that be? Yeah, she'll probably be born when I'm about 36.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean,
pretty
crazy.
close.
But I mean, when I was 30, man, I didn't even think I was at that particular point. I didn't even know if I was going to have kids at that point. So it's like, you're just fortunate, and I mean, thankful too. Like, a lot of people are having kids later and later in life, right? Like my one buddy who has 3 kids, he pumped them all out before he was like 30. So it's like just different.
Can you imagine? We
Yeah,
were busy when we were in our 20s, man. We had stuff to do. We had, I don't know, I definitely wasn't ready for kids anywhere, even remotely in my 20s. Like, I was just a completely different person. No, not even a little bit. Still figuring a lot of stuff out.
Yeah, I was still trying to figure out how to be a man at that particular point.
Well said.
And take responsibility for things and stuff like that, and find my way. Like, yeah, man, that's your 20s in a nutshell.
Finally realizing that it really is kind of up to you, that the whole like pointing your finger at anybody else doesn't really do you any good, and it doesn't get you any further along, and probably isn't even true.
No, it's totally true. I mean, when you're in your 20s, like you, especially now, like this, a lot of the times people used to have kids when they were like in their early 20s, and then they'd have to kind of like figure it out. Whereas
Oh my
now, a
gosh.
lot of the time, you're figuring it out in your 20s, like and trying to find your way from a career perspective and getting
You know
through
what though?
school and all that stuff, right?
Those kids are going to have the last laugh though. When you and I are in our 70s with our kids still living with us, and these people who had kids when they were 20 years old, they're off, like they're 40, and their kids are moving out, and they're just a couple of years away from this. Like look at Donnie. Donnie's a couple of years away from from having an empty nest, I think.
Yeah, and I mean Donnie's going to have his kids gone by the time my kids are like in school.
Exactly. Exactly. So he's put in the early time. Sometimes it's good to just, get an early start on those kind of things.
Yeah, and I don't think we like when I look back on it, like I'm glad we waited, just because
Same.
I think too, like you kind of, it's trial by fire too. When you're in your 20s, you don't really know what you're doing. You just kind of try to figure it out. I think like,
Yeah.
I don't want to say like it's easier when you're in your 30s, but I think if you have like, a good head on your shoulders, good financial base, it does make like a lot of things from a parenting side of things a lot easier. But
Definitely.
yeah, I mean, you do the best you can, man.
Yeah, man. Well, I'm jealous a little bit of your basement. I don't know the last time that I've heard anybody puts like a concerted effort into a surround sound system. I didn't even know if people did this anymore, and I was worried that it was going to be a lost art, because I am a big fan of a good surround sound system, dude. Like we sold ours a couple years ago, maybe 2 Christmases ago, and when the kids were really young, and I realized I hadn't even turned them on in forever, so we just sold all our speakers. It's like, man, that thing sounded so good, and this is a core of who I am, man. Like a good home theater system. I sold home theater stuff at Future Shop, man. I love it.
Yeah. So I mean, I generally don't like I'm not one to like go crazy with like, I'm not an audiophile or go crazy with speakers or anything like that. But my fiance's brother-in-law, he has like a cathedral in his basement.
Nice.
Just
a cathedral.
Like, yeah. Oh, it's nuts. So he's got like a 4K projector in his basement.
Yes.
He has a painted on screen. So a lot of these home theaters, you can get like painted. You can paint the screen right on the wall.
Yeah.
So he has all of that. He's got, I don't even know how many channels. I think it is like a 10. I don't know what. Like I only have a 5-channel system down here, but he's got like a 10-channel or whatever the high end version is. But
God.
I think he has probably about 20 grand in his basement. Like it's just nuts, like what he has. But it's incredible. Like we'll go over there and watch like live sports, or we'll go over there and watch a movie, and like that's
the place to go.
Yeah, for sure. And even now, like with our basement here, like we were, just before I came on the podcast here, we were watching we're actually going through Harry Potter right now. We're doing the 4K version from front to back.
Nice.
So we're on Chambers of Secrets right now, so we were like halfway through that, and Reese started crying. So I think Maddie just went upstairs actually just to check on her, see what was going on. But yeah, totally different experience, man. Even like I'm a big F1 fan. Donnie loves his F1. But I've been watching races down here, and watching that like on an OLED is just absolutely incredible, man. Especially in a surround environment.
Oh my gosh, I'm so jealous.
Yeah, super fortunate, right? I mean, to be able to do it. But at this point, like we were so invested in the basement, I was like, if I'm gonna do it, like let's just get it all done. Let's go the distance and like put it in here and put it down here. So we got a 77-inch C1 OLED.
Are you serious?
Like, yeah. Which even my brother-in-law, he's like, that's a crazy panel. I'm like, dude, like, have you seen your basement, man? You're getting on me for getting. Do you know
how big did he paint on his wall for his projector?
I think it was like 100 to 105 inches, somewhere around there.
That's
is what he has.
Man. Yeah,
like it's big, and I mean, it takes up a good chunk of the wall. But I mean, yeah, the 77-inch was at Costco. Like it was pretty affordable. Well, I mean, it's not like super affordable. I think it was like 3,500 to 4,000. It was actually
that's not bad though. That is a really good and an enormous
for a
TV,
panel.
dude.
Yeah. So they got the C2s that just came out. So they're trying to blow out all the C1s, which are 2021 models, and they brought out the new C2s. So they're pushing all of that through like Costco and Best Buy. So they put it up at like, I think it was like 38.79 Canadian, and so I picked it up at that. But then I get an email one day.
Goes to Costco.ca while you're chatting.
Yeah. So and I think so. It's still selling at 37.89. I think is what it's selling at.
Yeah.
On Costco and in stores. But when I was on there, I noticed that it actually price dropped, and it was an accident. Somebody price dropped it by like $300, and I noticed it, and I print screened it and everything, and I called Costco, and I'm like, hey, I just bought this like 2 weeks ago. Like, it's gone down in price. I get $300 cash credit back.
Come on.
And then next thing you know, 24 hours later, it's off the website. It's disappeared. So
so basically you got the last one at that price.
Yeah, well,
insane.
And even better, and I mean, hopefully Costco doesn't listen to this podcast, but the speakers. So we bought the speakers at Costco, and we were doing a bunch of things that day, and I had to send my fiance Maddie to go and pick up the speakers at Costco. So I said, hey, like, these are the speakers that I want you to go and pick up, and it was essentially center, 2 fronts, and the rears, and then the subwoofer comes separate. So the sub you had to buy separate, and then the 5 speakers were like a one price in a package. So they put all the products on the cart or whatever. They rang her through and everything, but because it was 5 speakers but only 4 boxes, because the 2 rears came in 1 box, they thought that the sub was part of the $1,000 speaker package, but the sub was actually separate, and it was like $399 plus tax. So Maddie gets home, like, we get all the boxes out. I check the receipt. I'm like reading through the receipt, and I'm like, hey, is there another receipt? She's like, no, that was it. And I'm like, are you sure? And she's like, yeah. I'm like, okay, they just gave us the sub for free, because like they literally checked it. Yeah, so I got the sub for free. They let us walk out with it, which is wild. So I actually did really, really well on this sound system. Like, even my brother-in-law was impressed. He's like, even if you had paid full price, you got like a great setup here that'll last you for a really long time. But he's like, the fact that you got the money off the TV and the sub, like, is incredible.
Are the fronts, are they all kind of the same size, or all that kind of like bookshelf kind of size of speaker?
No, satellites? So the ones in the front, they're towers.
Yes,
so
my man. Yes.
Yeah. So they're probably like I don't know, 3.5 feet. And they're about 12 inches wide. They're just tall, like skinny ones. And then there's a big big corner sub that's like, I don't know, 30 by 24. So it's a full decked out system. The center is like the size of the rear, but it's just like a rectangular box. So
sure.
So yeah, I got a good deal there. And then I got the receiver at a different store. I got a Yamaha. It's RXV4, I think is what it's called. So
damn, I'm out of my element here. I haven't looked at a Yamaha amp in a while.
So I was gonna get a Denon, but the Denon one that I wanted was actually sold out. So the guy there just recommended, he's like, this is pretty much like the exact same product. It's actually slightly better, and he gave me it for pretty much the same price. And my brother-in-law recommended, he's like, that's a great product. So it was good. And I mean, we in the basement, because we were getting the basement completely set up, we did all the wiring ourselves. So the wiring was done before we put up all the walls and everything. So we got all the speaker wire kind of going up through the roof or through the ceiling essentially, and fed.
What kind of ceiling did you do? Did you do suspended, or did you drywall the ceiling?
Yeah, we drywalled, but we had to do a drop down like around the TV. Just because we had to, all of the ventilation and everything has to go out towards the backyard. So there's a bit of a drop down at the TV, but it's fine. There's still like a ton of clearance and everything, and it actually kind of helps to like keep the light essentially from whatever, like we have very small windows anyway, so it helps to keep the viewing area like like pretty secluded, I guess you could say, is maybe
Yeah.
that's the word, but
I'd
yeah,
see it.
turned
I
out
could
great.
picture it. Dude, I've had a Yamaha, I've had a Denon, and a couple of Harman Kardons in my day.
Yeah.
And I
My
always
dad
use
had a Harman Kardon.
oh, I love those amps, man. They're just they just look nice. I actually think that I probably got more sound out of my Yamahas. I think I ended up going to Denon because they had some really inexpensive like 4K stuff near the end. But yeah, the Yamaha was just like these just horsepower behind these things, man. Just crank those things. Holy crap.
Yeah, and even this one, man, like you just like you can rip it up to like even if you just take it to 0 and it'll like it'll shake the room.
Ah,
It's wild, man. Like
I'm so
like,
jealous. It's awesome.
I know. Well, and I'm super lucky, man. Like just to have this space down here now, which is great. So it's it's awesome. I don't know. I still have to fill the room. Like that's the biggest thing now too. Is
with
like
what?
trying to
what do you mean?
Just stuff on the wall. Like it's just everything is
okay.
like it's like a blank canvas and stuff.
Yeah.
But, and I have to finish the stairs actually because we had like I did all the flooring myself.
Good for
all
you.
the trim work and everything, but the stairs, we left the stairs because they're pretty much just builder grade stairs. But, yeah, so I'm just gonna I went today. I'm gonna get I'm gonna get Home Depot just to bring in like some carpet, and we'll just put carpet on the stairs and then finish that off nicely. And then I still have to do like some sanding and some painting. And I'm on vacation.
Look at you.
Actually. Yeah, I'm on holiday now till July 4th.
Are you really?
4th. Yeah, it's first day of vacation.
You have a big honey-do list and a bunch of stuff to get done?
Sort of. Yeah, I mean, I have to, on the honey-do list is try to be at the golf course every day for a couple hours.
That's not a honey-do list.
No, there's not much actually that necessarily needs to get done. I do need to do a couple things down here, but I actually ended up resigning at my current job of 13 years.
How's that feel? That's weird. 13 years, man. That's a habit.
It's bittersweet, man.
Yeah, I'll bet.
It's all sorts of different feelings, man. It's very it's exciting, but it's also sad at the same time. It's kind of it's not what I necessarily kind of expected.
Yeah.
It just it got this exciting opportunity. Essentially, I'll be working remotely full time, which is awesome. And it's for a lot more money, which is obviously really good, especially with all the different things kind of going on with inflation and all and whatnot in the economy. So it's going to be good for our family, and it's also a big like career advancement, big title advancement as well. So it's it's exciting, man. Big change. I'm not I like simple a lot of the time. I'm not like huge on change, but I feel like
you got a baby, you got a new basement, you got your new surround sound, new job. Like, why not, man? Yeah. We got to go through these transformations every once in a while.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that, it kind of got to the point like in that role where I think if I had kind of spent, 2, 3, 4, 5 years there, I probably would have been in the same position. So it was kind of like, it was kind of one of those things I've been telling my friends like the last couple of weeks where it's like, it's a lot like a relationship with, another woman where it's like at some point in time, like
out with the old and in with the new.
Point, well, yeah, sort of, but it's also kind of like you both kind of recognize at a certain point that like the relationship's kind of not going anywhere and it's best that you both go your separate ways. And that was kind of something that I started to recognize a lot over the last like 6 to 12 months, that it just didn't make sense to kind of stay there. And with the way the market is right now, like I had 2 like firm offers, and then I had one other offer that probably would have gone through if I had have seen it kind of through. So there's lots of opportunities out there, and like to stay somewhere where your career's not kind of advancing, or you might not necessarily feel like you're getting maybe the respect that you need to get on a day-to-day basis. It's a great time to be looking, that's for sure.
That's an interesting point. Yeah, I think it is sort of like I don't know what like the equivalent would be for like housing, if it's a buyers or sellers, but it's, I guess we're sellers as employees. Are we sellers? I think, yeah, because if the employers would be buying up the labor. In any case, yeah, it's a good time to just
you're pimping yourself,
A little, I guess a little bit. But I wanted to ask you, because I know that this has happened for you recently, like what it means for you as far as like being the man of the house, as it were, like the providing. Are you sort of like the main breadwinner of the house, and what does that mean for you if that is your role?
Yeah, well, I mean, and I think it's a great question. Like, with the pandemic going on, like there's actually been a lot of opportunities in the last 2 years where I could have moved, right? But I think that, that really wasn't possible because, my wife is, or my future wife,
yes, it feels good, right?
Yeah, she's a teacher, but we also decided to have a child in August of 2020, and we got pregnant pretty quickly. So at that point in time, we knew that she was going to be going on mat leave, and that kind of changes the finances and stuff like
Big
that.
time.
So I think kind of at that point it changes your approach as far as how you go with your own career, and does it make sense to take risks, right? And I think in the middle of pandemic, right, it's like, okay, she's going on mat leave at this point in time, like, right, what we need is stability, right? So that's me working, and I am the breadwinner, but I think like our dynamic as a family too is like both of us have like careers, and both of us want to like contribute like on an even standing. And I mean, her career, where it's going, I mean, it's very possible, like as we get further along, like she's going to be earning more than me, and that's totally fine for me. Like that's great. I think it's awesome, right? But as far as like the last 2 years, like I need to just continue to keep doing what I'm doing in my role and making sure that I'm getting, a regular paycheck and supporting the family. And then, once she goes back to work, then at that point in time, it actually all kind of happened in and around the same time when she was going back to work that, hey, it's time for me to leave. I need to start kind of looking. So
yeah,
she's been super supportive, and it kind of all worked out. It took me about 2 months to kind of figure it all out, which seems like a short period of time, right? But in this market, like that's like a lifetime with how quickly people are getting hired out there. But yeah, I mean, that's definitely been a challenge, especially over the last 2 years, because I think during that period I probably would have wanted to move or leave at my current position. But you got to put your family first, right? And do what's best to make sure that you're paying the bills, and that keep a roof over you and your wife and your newly born child's head. And taking a risk with a new job, right, especially in the middle of a pandemic, is not a good idea, really, because especially when you have 13 years, right? Like when you have like a tenor built behind you. For those in the US, I don't know exactly how it works, but in Canada, I mean, you have certain legal rights that even people in Canada don't really understand. But if you've been with a company for a certain period of time, a company is obligated to pay you a certain amount of money if they terminate you without cause, which is important in an environment where you're in the middle of a pandemic, right? And a company may decide that they just want to arbitrarily lay people off. A lot of people don't know that companies can do that, but they are obligated to pay you. I mean, generally it's in between 1 to 2 weeks for however many years of service. I don't have the exact legal side of things in front of me, but yeah, you have essentially they are obligated to pay you that. So a lot of what happened, I found, like just being on the management side of things during the pandemic, is that because there was so much uncertainty, a lot of what was happening with businesses is that they were not laying people off a lot of the time, because they didn't really know what was going to happen within like 3 months, right? And
yeah, I think there was a point in time in the first month or so where big companies, and sometimes in like government, like the city of Edmonton, like laid off a bunch of people, and there was a university here who laid off a bunch of people. So like there was definitely a bit of a panic moment. But you're right, like at a certain point they were like, ooh, maybe there's some opportunity here, as they just started printing money for everybody.
Yeah, well, it got weird too, because I think after a certain period of time, things shifted, and there was a recognition that they were going to need people at a certain point in time.
Mm-hmm.
And once everybody kind of figured out how things were kind of going on, I think that companies recognize, okay, like if we let these people go, we know we're going to need them at a certain point. We have to just kind of eat the money and just wait it out and know that when we get to the other end of things, like we're going to be better off. And some companies were better than others. Yeah. And I mean, it also, some companies have the ability to lay people off easier than others, like hourly employees that are part-time, full-time, that type of setup. Like it's easier to kind of let them go. And we ended up laying people off, but it was all of our warehouse staff, which are on an hourly wage, right? So it's the salary employees.
But did you say that this move was maybe a mistake? Or are you having some like cold feet going into this, or are you like pretty rock solid on like this is the move you needed to make? And like, because it all sounds really good.
Yeah, no, it's super, well, not super. There's risks associated with it, right? Like we have no idea where this economy is going in the next 6 months. Are we going into a recession? Are we going into a period where, we're going to be back at like the beginning of 2020? Am I
So did you just throw away 13 years of tenure to go be a brand new person just as something crazy might be happening?
Yeah. And you're 13, and kind of what I was saying that a lot of people don't know about, like that 13 years, a lot of people don't really understand how much power people have with those 13 years. Just from a financial perspective, like companies do not want to write those checks to people. So having that kind of nest egg, I guess you could say, it does create some certainty and creates, you're not going to not have a job, right? Like, and if you don't have a job, that you're going to have like the ability to have a golden parachute, you could say. Now I'm completely exposed, right? So that was the thing for me where it was super important, where once my fiance went back to work, now she's making a full-time income. Now I can begin to kind of take some risks. So yeah, I mean, for me, I'm always thinking like 5 to 10 steps ahead. And I'm always thinking like, I know it's not the greatest outlook, but I am thinking like, okay, what's the worst potential outcome of this scenario?
Yeah.
If things
plan
happen,
for the worst,
right?
hope for the best, for sure.
Yeah. And that's good. My wife is the exact opposite. She's more like pie in the sky, and she's the optimist, which is good because that helps me out a little bit as far as like balancing each other out and keeps me kind of on the straight and narrow. But yeah, so I mean, I think like I said, I'm not regretting it at all. I think that just, the unknown is kind of, it's scary, right? I mean, for anybody it is.
Is that what has kept you at the last job for 13 years? Is that sort of mentality, do you think?
Yeah, I think I think I've gotten a bit complacent too. Like I haven't.
You blinked and then 13 years happened.
Yeah,
probably faster than you thought too.
I think every moment along the way, though, with that particular company, like I've progressed at every level. Like I've gone in, I've done entry level, I've done supervisor, I've done manager, and I've gone through the ranks, right? But I've hit kind of like a wall, I guess you could say. And it just became very apparent, specifically in the last like 2 to 3 months, where I had gone back and I had asked for more compensation, and then I just got gaslighted, and I was I
don't even know what that means. What do you mean you got gaslighted?
Essentially the company was putting it back at me that it was my fault without taking any ownership for essentially what they're responsible for. Like, and they're just zero accountability, right? So
for what?
Just around like support. So when we're working, I mean, it's been tough for corporations, but managers specifically have been kind of left to pick up the pieces because there's just been so much staff turnover.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's been months over this pandemic, specifically in the last year, where I'm working like 50 to 75 hours of unpaid overtime. Right. And during that period of time, right, like I'm having a conversation in April where, my attitude and my commitment is getting questioned. And it's just like, I'm just like, I don't even like, you read a lot of those communications and you don't really know what to say, right? Because it's like, when you've been with a company for 13 years, first of all, to say that they don't have commitment is just, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't even know really where to start with that one.
Mm-hmm.
Attitude, I mean, okay, we can have a conversation around that. I mean, I can be the first one to say, like, I don't necessarily have the greatest of attitudes all the time. I can be a little bit pessimistic at times, and I don't get along necessarily with everybody, right? But putting somebody in an environment where, they're left to kind of pick up the pieces and work those kind of hours on a month to month to month basis, and you're continually asking for help and you're not getting help,
That's basically the entire story right there.
Yeah, well, and my response to that is like, hey, like, I don't really know anybody that in this company or in any other company that would have a positive attitude going into work, knowing that they're going to have to work 50 to 75 hours a month in overtime that they're not going to get compensated for. Like, at some point in time, it breaks. And again, like, in my particular industry, I work in logistics. It's a demanding industry, right? Like, it's not a 9 to 5 job.
Just
and
always on.
Yeah, and I recognize that, but there's a difference between being always on and being abused, right? And we had kind of crossed that line. And
I feel like more and more people are becoming aware of this these days. Like in the last maybe 2 years, especially, like the notion that there's flexibility, that this, like, we could have been working from home this whole time. Like, that's like, we just had to decide that this is what we were going to do. It seems like the power is shifted, I think, overall to the labor side in a weird way. There's still obviously some areas that are a little bumpy and nasty for some people, but definitely it seems like there are more options. And sometimes people are just choosing not to work. They're just going like, I don't want, like, there's this notion of like the great resign or whatever it's called. Like, dude, this is a real thing. People are just going to sit in their basements, I think, and do less.
When I heard of somebody else that works, like one of our customers. I mean, her family has money, like she's fairly wealthy and her husband works, and she works, like she has a really good job, but she doesn't need to work. Right. And it's like, she's not getting supported. She's not getting the help that she needs on a day-to-day basis. And she's actually left right around the same time as me, and she just said, I've had enough, I'm out.
This sounds like you're leaving, right? It sounds like you're leaving a terrible situation. Sounds like you're going to an amazing situation.
Yeah.
Are you just not getting your hopes up at this point? Like, I'm trying to get a measure of like, why are you like celebrating too? Like, this sounds like you're leaving it sounds like you're leaving a place of 75 hours of a week. Like, get away from that as fast as you can. Run away and don't look back.
No, and I'm excited for that, because I think that, like, and that's one of the things we talked about is with some of my other colleagues, is like, there seems to be like a sense of relief with you, and I'm like, yeah, I mean, it is like, it is a sense of relief. I think the unknown, I think, is kind of where things go, because the thing is, like, the industry is really very much the same in a lot of different areas, but I think that having all of these different things, being able to work remote, so that means, like, once my kids go to school, like, I can literally walk my kid to school.
Yeah, right? Man.
I can, like, pick up my kid after school. I can go out and take a 20-minute walk with the dog every day. Like, those are things I don't really have. And, in my current role, it's a hybrid type of thing, but like, they want to send us back to the office. And I mean, that was one of the points, in March where, I'm grinding week after week, working in a remote job. And, then they come back and they say, hey, you're going to have to come in 2 to 3 times a week. And I sit in front of a computer all day. Right. And I've been managing a team of 9 people. So I was like, and that was one of the last straws for me, where it was like, how many more hours? Like, I simply said, I'm like, you get me the staff, right, and I'll come in. But I said, until you do that, I'm like, how many more hours do you need to take from me?
Yeah.
For it to be good enough, right? Like,
I got a basement to enjoy, damn it.
Oh, exactly.
Well, I'm happy to hear that you found maybe greener, maybe. Is it green?
No, I have. Yeah. I have. I think I'm still just trying to process, because for me, like, I left. This is the company that I went to when I graduated college. Like, this is the only company I've ever known. So I think just trying to process leaving, and my mentor is still there. He's been with me for 13 years. Like, it's it's a lot to like just kind of like walk away from that, but it's definitely the right decision. It's definitely the right moment and the right time for me to do it. And I know that when I get to the other side of this, whether this is a perfect opportunity, who knows, but it's something I got to do. You got to see what
it leads to whatever's next, man.
Exactly. 100%. 100%.
It leads to it. I love it. Well, you and I think on the last episode, we discovered that we're very similar in nature. And in this case, very similar as well. I was with an organization for just short of 10 years. Went through a lot of the same kind of feelings as I left, and went like, yeah, nuts to that. Like, I'm going to get out of here. I got my dream job. And then that in between time, I was like, I have to process this. This is a lot. Like I spent a lot of my life there, like a good portion of at that time, it was probably a third of my life. My actual entire life was spent at this place. So probably similar for you as well, man. So can't wait to see what's next. I want to shift gears a little bit though, because you and I did just hang out like 2 weeks ago, man.
I know. It was like just yesterday, man.
It feels June. I was saying to Ryan, like, I just don't even understand what has happened to June. I have traveled a ton over the last couple of months, and now I find ourselves just heading on into the Canada Day weekend coming up here pretty soon, which is actually it's coming up on a weekend, which is kind of nice.
Yeah,
Friday, man.
Friday this year.
We'll take it. I love it, man.
Which is good, because I think last year I think July 1st was a Wednesday, which
it's like
sucks.
a Wednesday. Totally. Yeah.
Not fun.
Who needs
Not fun.
No, we need a nice long weekend. But what did you think of the event overall, dude? Like, was that one of your first kind of showcases you got to go in person? None of us have done anything in the last 2 years, so I can't imagine if you've done anything like that ever.
Yeah, that was the first showcase that I've ever been to. First, video game event that I've ever been to. I've never been to like an E3 or even any like conventions or anything. So that was it was super unique to kind of like go to that, and it almost kind of like felt like, okay, things are kind of finally getting back to normal. We're seeing each other in person, all of those different things. But yeah, it was really good to kind of meet a bunch of the different people that I've been interacting with on Twitter for the first time in person. It's great to hang out with, you, Ryan, Court, Nagachaka.
Nagachaka's there, man. Yeah, dude.
Yeah. The carpool model. But yeah, no, it was a blast, man. We got to meet Steve, Vigvari. We got to meet a bunch of the guys, just kind of hang out and do that. I mean, it's not like having like that much of like a diehard passion towards video games. I don't necessarily say is something that I've had like my entire life. So like really like going like full steam into like this hobby's been really good. I mean, I definitely have played video games since I was like, 5 to 10 years old, but never been quite kind of like obsessed as I am kind of now with it. Which of course is the time in my life where I have, a lot less time to actually invest in it. But
isn't that the silliest thing, man? I feel the exact same way. Like maybe it's just we're finally like settling on into just our lives, and we had, I don't know, maybe this gets back into the whole like 20s and even before we were 20, like we had a lot of different things going on, Now we can just like, we've simplified, I would say. I don't know, maybe in certain ways, maybe some ways it's more complicated than ever, but you kind of get choosy with how you're going to spend your free time, and you're comfortable.
Your life is much more scheduled. Like
that's a better way to put it.
Right? Mm-hmm. Like you don't have a great deal of time anymore. You have moments. Yeah. That's kind of what I call it, where it's like, okay, like you have a moment of like 2 to 3 hours a day where you like,
I know,
you might be able to kind of like grab some time to like do things. And yeah, I mean, family obligations kind of definitely change things. You've got your relationship with your significant other that you kind of have to kind of take care of as well. And you have your job, and, at some point in time you have to try to sleep because it's unhealthy not to sleep. I don't know if anybody knows that, but
dude, say for the people in the back, man, you got to get your sleep. Yeah.
So yeah, it gets trickier. I mean, in college, right? I mean, we always used to call it killing time, because that's literally what you would do. You would kill time. Like you'd sit there,
crazy.
You could sit there all day, and just play video games, and the time would just kind of pass, and that would be the end of it, right? Like nobody, you can't do that. Like I just can't do that anymore. And it just, yeah, I mean, it's different. It's a good thing though. I think finding, what I've found is, as I've got older too, though, is that you have less time to kind of feel sorry for yourself and kind of get caught up on yourself if you're always busy, right? Like that's the big thing, is that when you've kind of got tons of time to sit around and kind of feel sorry for yourself, it's not exactly very good for the mind. But if you're always busy, you got work to do, you got activities to do like golf, or you got, people that you're going to see on a regular basis, having podcasts and stuff like that. I mean, it gives a lot less room for kind of negative thoughts and stuff to kind of creep in, right?
What's the saying? Something about the devil's idle hands, or something. The idle hands are the devil's tool, or something like that. Like, these are the reasons why we get kids busy and we keep them doing extracurriculars. Because if not, then they'll get themselves into trouble. And yeah, as we start to hit the world and it's complicated and life is hard and everything, if you're not keeping busy and moving on to the next thing, you can just sit and dwell and thinking about how you're not doing anything. And it's like this terrible circular set of thinking that. Yeah, I've been there. It's not good, but there's the other side of it too, where you're so busy where you don't even have time to think. That's not good either, So
no, and you have to kind of try to find a balance too, right? Like you need to find like time to like just do your own thing. Like it's good to have your own hobbies too, right? Like your wife should have her own hobbies. You should have your own hobbies. Your kids should have their own hobbies. Like it's super important to kind of have those things, right? Because if you guys are sharing the same hobbies, or you're only doing everything together, it can be super unhealthy, right? So, but yeah, I mean,
I think it's for some people, not for me, I would say.
No.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't say if it's healthy or not healthy. I just think that it's for some people, it's just not for me. Like it wouldn't be healthy for me and Chelsea to have the same hobbies all the time.
Sorry.
I just don't know if it's like, if I could say like generally speaking, some people they thrive because they do the same thing. They love it. Like I know some people who are business partners together. I don't understand how they would ever do that, like to own a business together and work together. So they like work together and they go home and they hang out and they talk about work together. Like goodness gracious. But I know that people are like, certain people thrive in that sort of situation. But again, not for me, which is why I was worried about dating Chelsea at the beginning, because we worked for the same place, but we kind of determined that we were far enough away from each other as far as like the locations that we worked and the departments, and our actual workload like didn't really touch. So like, it'll probably be fine. And also I remember saying like, I was here first, so if anything kind of goes crazy, like you got to go. So
yeah, exactly.
Which she ended up doing anyways, I guess.
Nice.
How's the podcast going, man? You guys are getting up there. It seems like you're just like, you're in your rhythm. You're ready. You're doing it, man. Royal City Gaming.
Yeah, it's going well, man. I think like we're 24, 25 episodes in. Like it's good. I think we're struggling to like get like a weekly cadence. I think as we get like further along with the kids, I think it's getting more challenging to find like the time every week. Mateo, who I podcast with, he's been going through some back surgery that he's been dealing with back pain for most of his life. He's got major issues. So
sucks.
So it's super tough, but we've actually been podcasting with Will Key. He guested on here. I think Will.
Dude,
yeah.
He reached out to me the other day, actually. I think I'm going to be chatting with him probably in a few months. I think we're scheduling God knows into the future. But that's awesome. It's funny that you mentioned you bring him up, because when I was, obviously I knew I was going to be chatting with you tonight, but for whatever reason, like I think of you two together. Actually, I think I didn't know that you guys like really knew each other at all. Maybe I did somewhere in my deep conscious, but I have you guys sort of like in the same area of my brain together. I think it's your dedication to your family. I think it's your like crazy work ethic. Maybe it's the Ontario connection. I think he's in Ontario.
So he lives literally 30 minutes from me.
There it is.
Like 30 minutes away. And he actually lives in a town 10 minutes from where I grew up. So we're very like close to each other. And I'm trying to think of how I met him. I either found him on Twitter or I found his podcast, one or the other, the Outbreak podcast, which is, I think he does a great job with that. It's like 30 minutes a week, and he does it solo, which I like. Doing a solo podcast is like, that is a skill, man. Like, I don't think a lot of people get enough credit for literally just spitting on the mic for 30 minutes or longer. Like anybody that does 30 minutes or longer on their own on a podcast and carries it from beginning to end is a champion, man, at talking publicly. Like it's hard, man, to do that.
It's a good skill to practice, though, man. I think podcasting, like I've said it a billion times over, but like everybody should get into it. Everybody's going to get something different out of it, whether it's like the skill that you practice of talking, whether it's relationships or even getting good at having relationships, whatever it is, or if it's just filling your bucket, like somebody is going to get something different out of it. He was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 episodes before you, actually. So
I may have heard him on the podcast then. That's
September 27th, he was on this show. And then Court Lalonde actually came on October 25th. So speaking of a whole bunch of Ontario stuff, yeah, Will was on the 27th. Then Delroy was over in Germany, for goodness sakes. Court was on the 25th. Dan was on the 1st. Then Babbitt. Matt Midwood on November 8th as well. So there you go, man. Andrew Watson down the street from you as well. He was on December 6th. He was a week after you. So we got a bunch of Canadians on We the GamerCast, dude. I love that you guys have connected. That totally, in my mind, as if it matters at all, just makes sense to me, dude. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I mean, I think, it's been good. I mean, he doesn't like pop on every single time, but like I'll text him and say, hey, are you around? You want to chat for an hour? Like, Mateo was actually out on the last podcast. We did like a showcase and Summer Game Fest rundown, and he's like, yeah, I'll pop in like an hour. We usually just do an hour, but we were on there for like an hour and 40 minutes, and we are just kind of going. And I think we realized after we got through Summer Game Fest, we're like, oh shit, this is going to take like way longer to get through all these different games. Right. So it kind of went a little bit longer than we were expecting, but he's in Guelph a lot. So we actually kind of want to meet up in person and just hang out, have a couple beers. He's got a little kiddo as well, so maybe we'll do a little backyard kind of barbecue and whatnot. But yeah, it's been good, man. I've met like through like listening to you guys, like through your podcast network, and then just really just exploring lots of other like super small podcasts, man. I've been able to like meet a lot of other people on Twitter and online, which is great.
That's the craziest thing. Like it's out of these small communities that we're meeting so many people. It's not from like the ginormous ones, and maybe some people have, if you want to call that success out of that, like I don't know, but it's these small tightly knit communities where like if you're in it, you just know that we're all a bunch of friends. And that kind of makes it easy to reach out to somebody and go, yeah, Nagachaka, you can pick me up from the airport. That would be awesome, dude. And we'll meet up with everybody downtown-ish, and we'll kind of figure it all out. Like I'm calling it now. A year from now, you and or will be back on the show, and you guys will have just joined forces. You've just combined. Yeah, it's not going to be a guest situation. You're just going to be partners.
I don't know. I mean, we might end up doing that. I mean, it's something we've been kind of. Well, not we. It's something that I've been kind of thinking about, like either doing something as like participating in some respects in a larger like podcasting group, just it maybe in like a smaller capacity, or just making our group larger so that it just makes it easier, because it gets harder when you have to be there every single week and you've got to do the podcast, right? It's a lot. Like, I mean, like you've got like 100 podcasts. So just about. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'll do some sort of celebration when we finally hit 100 podcasts, but yeah, I did 2 today. I'll do another one tomorrow night. You know, it's at a certain point, it's a little ridiculous, but that's the best thing is, I don't know. I don't even know how to ask the question, but like, you know, there's the doing the podcast itself, but how are you finding like the thinking about the podcast outside of it? Like, is it like strategizing to you? Is it creative thinking time? Like, what is the meta of the podcast to you?
Yeah. I mean, so for me, like you have to have planning going into it. And that's like what a lot of people that are listening to some of these smaller podcasts that are listening to your bigger podcast, is that like, it isn't just Sean and Ryan and Court just literally getting on the mics and just talking, right? Like there's a lot of planning that goes on in the background. Like you have to have notes going into it as far as what you're going to talk about, what you're going to say, and all of that stuff takes time, right? So there's all of that kind of goes on. I think that's the part of it that I kind of like, probably more than anything, is just planning out kind of what we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
Obviously just kind of hanging out and chatting obviously is a good thing, but I think kind of like coming up with, okay, these are the topics that everybody's talking about, or that, you know, we need to talk about. that's probably the aspect. Like I do all the show notes and everything for the show. Mateo does all the editing for the podcast. I'll edit from time to time, but yeah, I think just kind of, watching the discourse on Twitter, trying to come up with different things that we can kind of talk about on a weekly basis.
I'm glad you said that.
Of the process.
I'm glad that you mentioned that you actually enjoy that, because for a lot of people, and I think rightfully so, like it can be a grind for them, but I love the other side of it as well, like probably as much as the actual podcasting itself. Yeah. Like to the point where I was looking in my notes for the last time that we chatted, and right around, oh, look at that. I flipped to it right here. But right before my conversation with you, I've got 4 or 5 pages of like the rebranding to Carpool Gaming. I was already thinking about that back in those times, which was whatever we just said back in November. Like there's pages and pages way before that even. So you don't do that if you don't enjoy it. I don't think you find yourself leaving that pretty quickly if it's something that you don't really enjoy.
No. And I think you have to in this, one of the things that I think I've found has been good with podcasting is, and one of the things I've noticed is that like nothing ever really remains the same. Like there are some things that like remain the same. But I find like a lot of different content creators are constantly adapting, some quicker than others. Right. And they'll literally like, they'll throw some of the craziest shit at the wall. Right. Just to try to see if it sticks or see if it works, coming up with different like topics or different like show. I don't even know what I'm trying to say right now, but segments, essentially different segments of the show of things that they'll talk about, just to try to see if it'll kind of fit. And yeah, I think that's great, because I think one of the other things too is like with podcasts, I think if you do the same thing over and over again, I think it can get a little bit stale at times, right? Like I think
definitely.
You do create, most people that are creating content are creative people, right? So you do want to be creative. Like some of the other shows that are out there, like, they're just doing the same thing week in and week out, and that's fine, right? A lot of the time they're just kind of new shows, but I think with a lot of the smaller content creators, that's one of the things I see the most of is, they're trying new shows, or they're trying like to change up their existing format to try to like make it better, right? I think it's always a constant like puzzle on a
dude. That's exactly why I was recording the Xbox Drive in a car. I mean, part of it was just from a time limitation standpoint, but like I just wanted it to be like, well, who in their right mind would even think about doing that? Most people would say it can't be done, and I wanted to do it. And we haven't been able to do it for a while just because of damn cell phone reception somehow getting worse. But one day that will be fixed, and one day we'll be back in the car. But in the meantime, in order for things not to get stale, like even just going live shakes things up. Like the changes in my sort of time and reflection on it all, it's like you don't need anything transformational in order to shake it up. Like just a little change, just a little something. Like for us, it's just going live is enough of a difference for our shows not to be totally the same, and for us to be bored, or hopefully the audience not to be bored. But like,
how are you finding that? How are you?
I love it.
You guys are doing all of them live now, and obviously on YouTube. How are you finding? Because that's, a lot of people don't know. Like that's when you're doing it live, right?
Do it live.
It's a very different experience as far as like how you approach it. Like, have you had to change kind of how you do things, or how you guys do things?
I think the only thing that for us, it's like just that we have an active chat, luckily, that is there with us. But like, and maybe I'm missing something, because when I worked with Bobby Pauls, he definitely was affected by going live more than I was. And I think partly because like his streaming setup was a little tedious. So going live to him was taxing from a like focus standpoint. He definitely preferred doing it off air. But for me, like I don't stop and start anyway. So like, it's like, this is as live as it would be if we were to do it on YouTube right now. The only difference is there's nobody here with us. And for this show, I feel like it is important for it to just be like you and me right now. Like I don't want to be distracted by a chat or anything. But for like the Xbox Drive, it's such a silly show anyways. And the Nintendo Drive, don't even get me started. Like, bring on the craziness. Like who cares? I don't feel like I feel like it only enhances. I don't think that it distracts, at least for me. Maybe I'm wrong on that.
No, I think it's great because I can pop in and just kind of see you guys. And I don't think you were doing video on all of your podcasts.
Nope.
Prior
we made it a goal.
Right? So
we made it a goal on when we rebranded. We're sort of like, okay, these are some things, and this is a lot of the notes that we've got in these pages. Like, these are things that would probably be good and people would probably want to see. So we throw them up as Patreon goals, as well as the focus is really on YouTube to try and get some of those numbers up there. So we found pretty quickly that live content does huge numbers compared to posted videos, at least for us in podcasting goes. Like, we don't do like here's 5 things you need to know about blah, blah, blah. Like, we don't really do those style of YouTube videos. It's primarily podcasting content. So live podcasting content on YouTube works for us because that's the content we make and it seems to be what people want. So yeah, it's been, I don't know. I wouldn't do it any other way. How I will say, and Ryan and Kato will probably hate me saying this, it's like the second my phone reception gets better and I can do a video conference from my car, we're back on the road, man. Like that, I don't want to be doing it from here for much longer, to be honest with you. We'll see how, I mean, it's kind of out of my hands on that front, but I want to be back in the car. I want to be driving around. I want to be ordering my coffee from McDonald's and doing stupid stuff. Cause like you said, I can't be staying doing the same thing forever, or I'll get bored. Audience will get bored. And then it's just another Xbox show.
That's true. Yeah, well, I mean, so what's going on? Like, is the cell service just bad in your neighborhood? Or nobody has any idea what's going on?
Well, two things. One, work actually, they moved away from providing us with phones, so they said they'll give us money towards our own. And at about the same time, I switched from TELUS to Shaw, and it was a bad decision. It was a bad choice. So, but even still, and I still have my work phone, which is really weird. But now I can't connect to. It's a whole thing.
It's a whole thing. Yeah.
We've definitely tried, to the frustration of myself and surely to Ryan and Kato, to record it once again in the car. But we got to get to the point where I can have so stupid. Like, I literally record from my car, man. But that's how it started. It was a Skype call from my car on the way to work. So I've just now got to be able to get good enough reception that I can transmit video before, because we never did video on these shows before. I wasn't looking at Kato or Ryan. It was literally just a call that we would make a podcast out of. So we'll see how it goes. But I want to get crazy again. I mean,
I think you guys have like stepped up to another level too with like the YouTube side of things. Like, you guys have subs. You guys have like a pretty significant subscriber base on YouTube now, which is great. And
thanks, man.
There's the regular content that's kind of dropping on a regular basis. So it's good, man. You guys have added a couple different new shows. Your Patreon's been doing really, really well. You got to be feeling pretty good about that.
Yeah, but enough about me. I already feel like I've gone enough about me long enough. What are some of the things that you want to do? What's going on in that old brain of yours? Is the mix up with Will kind of at the forefront, or what kind of things you want to do to shake things up over there?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think, I would definitely like to do something with Will, but I think Will's got he's got a new job, which I'm sure he'll tell you lots about when he's on.
I'll convince him
that kind of going on, and
yeah.
So, I mean, he's doing that. And then, I mean, he's got his own podcast and then family, right? So, I mean, I think he's got a lot going on. So I don't think he really wants to kind of change his podcast. And I think kind of adding a guest kind of takes away from like kind of how he's doing things. But you never know. I think, like I said, one of the things podcasting, it changes, very frequently. So I wouldn't be surprised if me and him kind of started doing something here and there. But yeah, I mean, as far as goals are concerned, I don't really know. I mean, from a podcasting perspective, I'm really just kind of getting on the mic and just kind of talking, interacting. Like, I do like to check in with a couple different podcasts. Like, I've been on NXS Cast. I don't know if you've heard of those guys, but they're California guys.
I'll check
they're
them
friends
out.
with they're friends with Badbit and Ains. Like, they've had them on the podcast. It's Daniel Dash Revolver on Twitter. But they do a really good podcast, and Jeremy and Kevin. But they're really good guys. Very laid back. They play a ton of video games, like Dash as well as plays a lot of video games. Same with Kevin. I mean, all three of them do. So they usually do like a 2-hour show. They do it on YouTube. I don't think they go live on YouTube, but yeah, they do a really good podcast. I've guested on that. Also, that's pretty much the only place I've guested. But I would like to kind of do a little bit more of that, maybe in like the next year or two. We'll see kind of where our podcast goes. I don't know if it's gonna, get past, a year or two. And if it doesn't, that's totally cool. Like, I mean, if we end up folding and then we ends up creating something else, then it's accomplished its goal. Like, it was really just to kind of start podcasting, start interacting with people, learning how to get a regular cadence, how to essentially do a podcast, right? Because that's half the battle. Like, the first 4 or 5 episodes were just a dumpster fire. So I think learning how to get on the mic on a regular basis and be able to hold a conversation and talk about things, with other people for an hour or two. It sounds easy, but it's not, right? So I think there's that side of things. Yeah, for sure. So yeah,
it's like anything new, man. Yeah, definitely. I love the way that you say that. Like it whatever happens. It's kind of done its job. That's such a good place to be. Not too high expectations. Not gonna be too hard on yourself. But if something amazing happens, then you'll be there. You're gonna be ready for something amazing to present itself to you, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I mean, I think too, like, even if this new job, starting in a couple weeks, I mean, if I start there and I just find there isn't any time to do it, then, that may end up being the case, right? And then it just becomes, I'm not going to not play video games, but I'd rather play video games and I'll just interact with kind of people on Twitter and do all of that. And if someone wants me to pop in and do a show or something like that, that would be totally cool. And maybe that's where I end up in 6 to 12 months. I don't know, but
imagine that. Imagine a hobby where you just play the games. I can't even imagine. I'm so far removed from that at this point, but the idea is enticing.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing too, right? Like I almost feel like doing a podcast on a weekly basis, and if I'm not playing the games on a week to week basis, I don't want to say I feel bad talking about it, but it's hard to like speak intelligently sometimes about certain things when, all you've really looked at is something on Twitter for like 2 minutes, right? And then you're popping on a podcast, right? Like, sometimes I almost feel like some of what I'm saying necessarily is kind of disingenuous in that way. So it's, yeah. And I don't have all the time in the world to play even, more than 1 or 2 games at a time. Right. So trying to do all of that can be difficult. And I mean, maybe that means the podcast shifts into something else too, right? I mean, it's more of like a general conversation podcast. I don't know, but yeah, I mean,
look at Kato and I, man. Look at the Nintendo Drive. We are not Nintendo analysts at all. We pick maybe one piece of news, and then we just go like, we talk about what's on the eShop this week or whatever. Like, and this is classic like 20 some odd episodes kind of reflection. This is what it sounds like. Like, what am I supposed to say? Like, what am I supposed to talk about? And is there even a supposed to, or is it just like what I want to do? And is there a version where you just figure out what that truly is instead of what you think it should be? I think that's like a very natural place to be a couple dozen episodes into the run here.
Yeah, and I totally agree. And I mean, I think what you guys are doing with the Nintendo podcast is great, because I think too with Nintendo, they don't have like the breadth of releases that you might see on Xbox or PlayStation, where they're
going to come after you now.
Oh, they're all, probably.
They're coming after you now, dude. Yep.
They're adding me on Twitter, but yeah, I mean, I think it's hard. It's harder to do a weekly Nintendo podcast. Just my own opinion. Like, I think that, you can be you're grabbing at straws sometimes to do a weekly podcast for Nintendo. And again, I'm going to get a ton of hate on Twitter.
There you go. One, and there's a ton of Nintendo podcasts out there. And one of the things that I just love watching and embracing is just the different styles of Nintendo podcasts that there can be. Like, because one of the things that jumped out to me with Bobby when he had his YouTube channel was like, dude had a new Nintendo talk. I think that's what he called it. He would do a 5 to 10 minute video every day about the Nintendo news that came out that day. He did Monday to Friday and every day in between. And I was like, I remember thinking the exact opposite of what you're saying about Nintendo, where I was like, I would kill for like Xbox to have daily news. That would be amazing. And back then it was so far from the truth. But this is where Kato and I think we've got a pretty good sense of like what we want to actually do, and that we don't really get swayed by what others are doing necessarily. Is when I listen to like Nintendo dads, they can do a 2.5 hour podcast and they've got a ton of news. I listen to like the House of Mario or Nintendo Shack, like Nintendo Pals. These guys all have tremendously deep and amazing conversations about a wide variety of news. Kato and I just don't have much to say about most of those topics, where other people totally will. So we just kind of let go of, I think there was maybe once, maybe twice where we had show notes where it was like a bunch of stuff and we're like, don't, like we're actually on the show and I think we're like, don't care. I'm like, moving on. We're like, well, that's dumb.
I remember that episode.
Right. Like, why would we even we're in control. This is the notion you were getting at earlier. Like, it's not like you go to google.com and download your show notes from podcaster delivery service. Like, you get to make your own show. You get to make it whatever the heck you want it to be. So if you're running into things where like, I don't know if I should be speaking to this or that, it's like, I feel like that's a flag for you, man. Like, you can definitely like think on that for a little bit. What does that actually mean for what you want to do instead of like what you feel you should be doing?
Yeah, and I would agree. Like some of the Nintendo podcasts too, like they get creative with things. Like all of the podcasts you mentioned, like House of Mario, like Drew and I can't remember the other guy's name. I'm trying to think. It's Drew and
Bryce.
And Bryce, yes, both of them.
Let
like,
you hang for a little bit.
I know. Both of them, like their podcasts, right? Like they might not necessarily be talking about like the exact thing that's kind of going on with Nintendo every week. They'll talk about it, but they'll go off on a very like specific topic, and they'll just talk for like an hour. Like those guys are great. I also think too, like from a creativity perspective, like both of them will do just crazy things. Like on their podcast, like they'll do improv, they'll do, unique things.
Skits.
Right? And I think,
yeah, it's so good.
Yeah, like it's different. I mean, Nintendo Pals is another one. Nintendo Dads, like there's lots of great Nintendo voice chats. Another one. There's lots of good Nintendo podcasts out there for sure.
Nice, man. Well, look, dude, it's been awesome catching up with you. I'm glad to hear that life has got this kind of amazing turn for you here. Obviously gonna have to have you back on, and we stay in touch anyway. So I'm very curious to see what this life change has in store for you. I'm gonna be on the side of your partner, your fiance. Just go, I am the eternal optimist. I think this is the best thing for you. It's gonna be amazing. Absolutely nothing will go wrong. It's gonna be incredible. We've talked a little bit about your podcast. Do you want to go ahead and tell the people listening where they can find you on the internet and your creative endeavors, my friend?
Yeah, man. So you guys can find us at Royal City Gaming on Twitter. And if you just put in Royal City GameCast on any of the podcatchers, you can find us there. We usually do like a weekly or bi-weekly news and show essentially about gaming. We talk about what we've been watching on TV and movie-wise and what we've been playing game-wise. Want to check us out?
Nice, man.
That'd be great.
Or you can find Jordan on a previous episode of the Xbox Drive where we did a rundown of the Summer Game Fest, actually, which was pretty awesome. We did that one of very few in-person podcast recordings. And you saw the setup that we did. I don't know if you knew this, but the audio that we ended up using was from the iPhone sitting on the table, not from the microphones set up all over the place. It was actually from the iPhone sitting in the middle of the table.
That was the best audio that you guys had?
That was the best one. Damn. We listened to all of them. That was definitely the best one. So shout out to anybody who does podcasts in person, because that ain't easy, man. It's way easier to do it this way over Skype or whatever. Yeah, dude.
Crazy.
Cool, man.
Crazy.
Well, thanks for carving out time tonight, and I hope that you can get back to enjoying your wonderful basement, my friend.
Yeah, man. We'll talk to you soon.
"13 years at the same company." I was almost going to say the same job, but I don't think that was the case. Many jobs, many new opportunities, but 13 years. I'm very curious if you guys are still here, especially on YouTube. You guys let us know we had a little bit of games sprinkled in here, but we definitely focused a little bit on life and careers and just the new responsibilities, man. I really wanted to dive into that a little bit with Jordan because a lot of what he was saying was really resonating with me, especially as I think I'm just a couple years older. I feel like we're on a similar path, but like there's something to be said about taking on the responsibility of like, he kind of mentioned like you don't get as much freedom. You don't get to just like do whatever you want when you've got a couple extra mouths to feed and a roof to pay for and all these things. Like the risk taking is lessened. I don't want to say it's over because I don't feel like it is over. I feel like I'm still taking risk. I feel like this, even just doing this, the content creation is kind of where I get to do that and kind of see what else am I capable of, man? And that's what this is all about. I've actually got a nice reminder that I've set up for myself. Every 9 o'clock in the morning, I've got my phone telling me, what is it? What do I say? It says, push me, I can handle it. Because I can handle it, man. We can do this. We can set our minds to something. We can absolutely do it. There's a little pump up talk for you to go about your day. Whatever you've got your mindset on, just get it done, man. Focus up. I love it. Tell me about it too. I would love to hear about it. Now, that's enough about that. Please follow Jordan on Twitter, JLA_15. I'm Sean Capri, Sean the Connor, Capri like the pants. Carpool Gaming on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, apparently. It's pretty amazing. Follow all the things. Links in the show notes. I want to quickly get to a return to form here. I've been away. I've been traveling. I've been crazy the last couple of weeks. I haven't had a Bobby clip in a little while. And I want to thank Josh Stapleton for continuing to send just a wonderfully curated list of clips from the hundreds, if not thousands, if not tens of thousands of hours of Bobby Pauls on the internet. This is me and him on an episode of Cup of Joe and Nintendo, which was just as it sounds. We would grab a cup of coffee. We used to record at 5:30, 6 in the morning and just talk about stuff. This is him going on about Dragon Quest, Dragon Warriors, playing with his cousins. It's a great story. I miss Bobby. Hug your loved ones. Be nice to each other, especially now. Holy crap. And I'll see you guys next week. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.
Me and my best friend, we used to every day, he'd come over right after school. We'd save our lunch money, like we wouldn't spend our lunch money, and we would walk to the store, right? And the store was about 2 miles away, right?
Yeah.
We'd walk to the store. We'd go in there. One of us would buy like a bunch of Suzy Q's, which is a cake. Yeah, it's a chocolate cake, cream filled, white. Oh, it was amazing. But one of us would buy a bunch of that, and the other one would buy like 2 1-liter bottles of like grape soda or orange soda, right?
A liter bottle.
I'm
amazed.
Liter
yeah,
bottle, yeah.
Wow.
But it was like it was weird because it was like this. It was like basically like the store's version of it, right? And then we would go home, and we would go back to the house, just chilling out, eating our Suzy Q's and drinking our soda, and like playing Nintendo. And it would be like we'd be playing like Baseball Stars or Dragon Quest, or Dragon Warrior.
You played that with a lot of people sitting around? Dragon Warrior, Dragon Quest? Like it's so.
That was just me and my buddy. So what would happen is we would take turns. We would play and we both had save files that we were doing, and we would play for an hour. I would play for an hour, and then I would shut down, and then he would play for an hour. And basically the hour was just grinding. That's all you did. You just ran around in circles fighting enemies. It was so dumb. I don't know why that game picked. Honestly, that's why Final Fantasy beat it so bad, because Dragon Warrior, Dragon Quest games were just grind fests back then. Yeah. But like Final Fantasy was like, hey, you had to grind a little bit, but like the story kept progressing, and the stories were fantastic, and the music was fantastic, but like it was just so good. But yeah, man, I think back to that time, and I'm like, this is just, you can't recapture. So like for me, like when I took the week off of work for Animal Crossing, that was absolutely me recapturing.
Oh, no kidding.
Because I'm I got nothing to do. I got no school. We're just going to hang out and play Animal Crossing. It was
dude.
Man.